So Enrico, I think we'd love to start with how your week has been. The Luca has opened a week ago in
Yeah.
the world, everywhere in the world on Disney Plus. And I follow your Twitter, and I actually follow a lot of the Luca related posts, but it's everywhere. Everybody's doing fan art and comments, and
Yeah.
you know, how has it been for you?
Yeah, it was. It's been a bit of a crazy week. I was in LA on Thursday, so we did the premiere at El Capitan. So that was already kind of an exciting night, being there, watching it with people in Los Angeles. And then we flew back the next day, and yeah, then for a couple of days it quieted down for the weekend. And yeah, it's interesting. I think as a filmmaker, you're a little apprehensive with critics, and you start hearing, and so as soon as I landed in LA from Italy, you get some, 10% don't like your movie, so you get a little bit like, oh, that's too bad. And then this beautiful response, the fan art is kind of blowing me away a little bit. I am absolutely kind of like, I can't believe how many people are drawing these characters, which is crazy. And there's what I love about it is that they make the characters their own, and they care about them. They're like, I want to adopt these kids, kind of. So it's kind of blowing me away, and it's lovely, and in many ways it made me not care about maybe the 10% of the critics that we couldn't satisfy somehow.
Yeah. So that I can imagine. I mean, right, Robert? Right, we, even with our experience of releasing a super tiny, projects like ours, it's still like we get bothered by like people, just small percentage of people who don't like it, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine like what Enrico had to deal with just everywhere in the world, all the outlets in the world, they're just kind of keeping their eyes on, expectations high. It's a Pixar film and big budget, and then you have to still satisfy all these sort of film critics and fans. And
yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, I think there's a big choice of, do you read all the reviews, which is an interesting question. I read some, and to be completely honest, after a while I was like, I didn't need to. I got the gist. And then, but then you read people's reaction and people feeling emotion, being touched by the movie, really feeling that it spoke to them. And so those, not only, the other story, of course, is not the fine art, but just people really loving these characters and loving the movie. And that's been really wonderful. Of course, we were trying to do something a little more intimate and a little smaller, and I think that is what makes people fall in love with it. That's also probably what keeps 10% out the door, not really into it. So I think I'm okay with it.
absolutely.
Actually, for me, I think like I wasn't nervous when we, Enrico, when you invited us over to watch the film, and I wasn't nervous at all. And then I think after watching it, and truthfully sort of loving it, but also understanding that it was so different than any other Pixar film, I have to say in that moment, wanting the world to love it, I got nervous. Like I sort of felt like, oh my gosh, like Enrico's really,
what's going to happen?
Yeah, what happens from this point? How does the world receive it? And its release is so unique. And so there's so many elements about it that were unique. Is definitely that's the moment, when we were kind of getting back into the car to go our separate ways. I just had this moment of like nervousness, this like, oh my gosh, like the world is it's gonna be released to the world. I can't imagine what it's like to be Enrico right now. Like,
Totally.
Yeah.
Enrico, I'm just curious, like, and it was really touching that you invited me and Robert and my family to your family screening, that you only had a very few spots. I don't know, like 20 or so spots.
Yeah.
And you know, like truthfully, some like Robert and I got to see the final complete film even before a lot of the Pixar crew members, and uh, of course we were just so touched and honored. But I just want to really thank you for that, and you know, Robert and I were just really appreciative and grateful of like you sharing that moment with your family, and you know, like our family sharing that moment with, you know, Theo and um and uh and I think your friends and families, like you kind of like embraced me and Robert, even though we've been a little bit distant because we've been so busy with each other. um how why did you invite us to your family? You know, that was just like so incredible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't have enough friends. No, I'm just I'm just kidding. No, I feel like when I thought back to, you know, normally you would have a wrap party. And then they tell you, we're going to only have a crew one, but the crew can't invite anybody. And I was kind of like, oh, am I only going to show to my close family at home? That would feel a little weird. So they're like, you can have a little screening, and then like you can have 20 people in there. So then I really thought, you know, I really went through everybody, and then I thought of you guys. I thought of Ronnie. Ronnie couldn't make it. When I thought of work, you know, friends that are not just work, you guys certainly came to mind, and I thought maybe you guys might appreciate seeing it also because we're in filmmaking, I guess, in general. You know what I mean? That is why I went there. Okay. And yeah, I mean, we're always wanting to connect, but we don't. So I thought that would be also a good excuse, you know. So there's definitely we've been ships in the night, that's for sure.
Thank you. So I think Enrico, especially since I came in late today, I want to keep going to just hit some of the stuff that I love to talk about. The first of all, you know, you and I started in New York. You know, our first film, I mean, big film project was Ice Age, you know, back at Blue Sky. And I remember when I first met you, that was year 2000, right? So if you can believe it, that's like 21 years ago.
Crazy. Yeah.
And when I first met you, like I was like, oh, it's a strange Italian guy who speaks a bit of Japanese, and you know, like and then, you know, there was Justin, right, and Andre, and you know, like really Japanese anime loving American, you know, friends.
Yeah.
And we used to get together watching like new anime. Like you guys were way more knowledgeable of anime than I was. I actually didn't know much about anime, and I kind of learned a lot of those great movies and great filmmakers from Japan through you guys. But I remember like back then we were, you know, dreaming someday, like, you know, what if we can do like the type of stories that we love. And, you know, at the time, a lot of American, you know, animated feature films were very similar kind of storytelling, like, you know, Disney traditions, all great, but not many varieties, right? And I just have to say, like, you know, after 20 years, seeing you at the sort of like the kind of the biggest and the most respected animation studio in the world, Pixar, making your very personal, like Robert said earlier, very much like your sensibility, your stories taste, a lot of Japanese-ness and Italian-ness in there, not making a feature film debut, you know, just really kind of got me emotional just thinking about that. But I don't know if you remember those days back in the days in New York, you know, I don't know if you were already envisioning this 20 years later.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you definitely, you remember when we pitched that idea together, right? Which I don't remember us brainstorming it, but we did something, and they even optioned it from us. So we had an idea that we pitched in this. It was like a pitch kind of fest at Blue Sky, and that was really fun, right? I mean, I guess each one of us made some illustrations, right, for it, and we pitched it. So interestingly, I mean, I'm pretty sure that is the first pitch we ever made, right? Like, so that's kind of crazy. But so if we were pitching, we must have been thinking about it, though I can't remember being that ambitious. You know what I mean? Like, not at the time.
But Enrico, I actually have the image from that.
You made?
I was able to find one. It's a photograph of a print, so it's not the original digital file, but I'll just share real quick.
It's pretty funny.
So this is the one. Remember this?
Nice. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
it holds up.
And
maybe not to you, but I think it does.
Called Petopia, and you know, they, like you said, the Blue Sky, the Fox 20th Century Fox ended up optioning. Like, I think they paid $7,000 or something like that, and we split. And I remember we were so excited that we're like, oh my god, like they're gonna make, because you know, I don't have the drawings you made, but your drawings were like Miyazaki drawings. I remember that, and it's really like very Japanese style, anime style kind of a feeling. And I remember Chris Wedge coming to your desk, and I was actually at your desk, and then Chris stopped by, and he said, after they already bought it, he said, they're not gonna make this. You know, it's just too anime.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that moment.
I don't remember that at all. Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm like, but why did you pay so much money for it if you're not gonna make it? You know, but it's kind of like to me, that was the state of, I think, American animation back then. And then I really feel like it's changed quite a bit, especially in recent years. And especially place like Pixar, you know, commercially very successful studio is pushing towards a little more sort of diverse storytelling. I think that's what's, you know, really pushing the envelope and pushing, kind of broadening the landscape a little bit more, which is really exciting these days.
Yeah, and it does come a bit from that need to diversify voices, that it's something that it's needed, and I think it's felt right socially. So I think that's helping. I mean, you know, it's just the beginning of it, because, you know, as you know, the last year, Black Lives Matters and all that, it was just such an impact on every business, and it certainly had a big impact on Pixar. So I think it'll probably even more so soon. We're just happen to be the younger generation that, you know, right behind me, Domi, she made a short like me, and she got her chance to pitch, and now she's coming. But there is a nice amount of other people that are in development there. So, and as diverse a story, and the more different they are, I think the better. You know, she grew up in Toronto, and Asian Canadian, and she has a very specific experience, and her movie is also personal. So I think that's exciting. And, you know, she also probably even more openly than me is absolutely not about anime too. So she's bringing a Sailor Moon angle. You know, I mean, it's a nine. You know, she's much younger than me, so there's a different take on it, but it is very also inspired and influenced by anime she loves.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I'm curious, like, you know, your directing, Luca, started with your short, just like Domi, you know, directed Bao, and you directed La Luna. And La Luna, like, Robert and I, especially Robert, had a lot of like involvement, and it'd be great to talk a little bit. I don't know if Robert, you wanna.
Well, I wanted to share, just like you have something from the past. Wanted to share something. Give me a second. Are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Enrico, do you remember this?
Yeah, it was at a restaurant, right? We filmed it.
This was at our apartment, our old apartment.
Robert's
apartment.
Is
that what it was? Oh yeah, we had a big. Oh, okay, so it was like more of a dinner. A dinner at your place. Look at those beautiful drawings.
Yeah, and Daniel Lopez Munoz was there, right?
Oh,
and I don't know if you remember. This red, the little red that's there, that's actually wine that he took his finger and like pushed it around. And then Rodrigo was there, and then myself, and this is Dice. And then it's funny because actually you did the smallest little drawing.
I only did one little drawing there. Yeah. I must have been drinking too much. Look at that hand. That is a DLM hand.
That's definitely a Daniel Lopez hand, huh?
That's that's kind of out of hand. Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
This was before we had started, right? Like you had pitched the idea, and I think this is right after, maybe, I don't know if I remember exactly when, but this is before really,
I don't either.
It was just getting everybody together, and you were talking about your excitement for La Luna and the possibilities of it. What
a crazy team to have you guys' help and Daniel's help. I mean, I think even Rodrigo and even Daniela did something for us too. So I was very lucky. Obviously.
And this drawing, I want to point out this drawing right here that Dice did. This one right here. I'm not sure what that is.
Is that like you like saw a baby Yoda before Baby Yoda?
Before Baby Yoda was Baby Yoda. Dice.
That's how much. It shows how much I care about Star Wars. You know?
You're not.
Wait, do you guys remember when this was? What year?
Oh gosh,
well, it might be 2000. 9, 10. I'm so bad with that.
I don't know.
Oh, it's like 10 years ago, huh?
Yeah, it would be.
Seriously, this is like a really historical moment. Like, all the players at the dinner table, Dan Lopez and Rodrigo and you guys and us. And
we could see how much money we can raise by selling this and see if anybody wants.
Tonko House may need it.
There you go. Could be an item.
But Disney might sue us though.
Right. But no, I mean, I'll say this about, of course, it was such a pleasure to work with you guys on it. And I think it was the first attempt at making something look different, right? That we were all already thinking about that together. And it was really with your help, we even got it started. So the other thing I'll say is that it's not immediately easy to say, I pitched a short, I get a feature. Took me I think a good I think it took me almost 2.5 years or to get back, because first you have to say, can I pitch, and then sometimes they're thinking about it, and then you pitch, and then like we had to pitch twice. So it took a while to get back at bat. It was a painstaking kind of a thing, I remember.
In a way, the Japanese sensibility in Pixar style was kind of like your version of it started here with La Luna.
Yeah, like I think visually more than anything, we were fighting a little bit the tools too.
I remember that.
I remember we were trying with character. We were getting like shading and character, which actually I feel we worked really hard on the skin tone and the rouge in Luca. We couldn't write. It was looking like he had some disease in when we tried on the little kid to make painterly kind of a texture. So That was, I remember, difficult, but weirdly, La Luna came together quite easy. The storyboards were kind of never changed. So I always say, in a weird way, not going through some fights and getting down and getting back up and changing, and actually didn't prepare me as well as it could have to go to a feature where you're having to do so many other things. So I feel like it was a blessing in a disguise that La Luna came together relatively easy, especially story was done. You know, I boarded it and we were good. So it's interesting how that actually, I mean, I don't know how much a short can prepare you for a feature anyway, but it certainly didn't help that way, you know.
When you say like a La Luna experience with La Luna didn't prepare enough of your, you know, the journey, you know, first of all, like in development, you know, I remember you had to pitch, and also the timing of the pitch is not dictated by your creative, but dictated by the schedule of the studio. So it's really frustrating, right? Sometimes that you when you feel you're ready, you can't pitch because you just don't have your slot, or you just don't have, you know, John or Andrew or those Pete or those guys are not available. And
that and also I was helping on other shows, you know, I was storyboarding. So of course, it was not the easiest year and a half or two, because you don't know where you're standing and you have to prove yourself. And they were asking me to storyboard. But I mean, you know, you stay at it. I think that was certainly something that I was, you know, I stayed at it. I think that was probably the key thing. You know, you pitch once, hey, they did leave the door open. So I felt I had to go again. And once we got there, I mean, to speak to the difficulties of I mean, first of all, right, how do you make something, you know, like a little poem, like there's something the lyricism of La Luna was hard to bring into a feature. And that was the goal, was like, how do you bring some of that? How can I retain some of that storytelling? And while doing all these other things that you do need to do with a feature, right? So you have to work with a writer, you get, you know, you start that collaboration, it's a huge thing. Dialogue as opposed to not, right? Like I was coming always from visual. So now you're talking, it's a movie about kids. They do need to banter. I wanted the dialogue to be there. It's not like, I mean, I of course I wanted a lot of visuals, but so that was an interesting thing, finding the right collaboration for that. And Jesse Andrews, which is, you know, we found our collaboration, I feel, because he wrote Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. He has this knack for actually teenagers. He's actually usually maybe a little older with what he writes, but you know, I think he has an X factor of funny, weird that I love. And the other thing for me was also, I was coming from this place of having done a lot by myself, right? Like boarding it, I wanted to board it myself. And now you have to develop these completely other skills, which are like, how do you tell your team? How do you inspire your team? Which, again, for me, still find the ways to still board a few things. And I think that's part of, you know, scrappiness, which it's probably another great subject, because I feel like in many ways, knowing you guys and your superpower and scrappiness does always help my perspective, to be honest, because that's a separate subject. But I feel like I value that, the fact that you can be in the trenches and you're not just someone telling people do this and that, right? I mean, I feel you obviously feel the same way. So, but anyway, having to, though, of course, inspire and lead and communicate, that's a whole, I mean, there were so many things I didn't know, and I just knew there would have to be a lot of learning. And then the story and the brain trust, right? You know how it works. You put it up, what works, what doesn't, how can you get pushed a little bit left and right by different main people. We were in the middle of a big change at Pixar with leadership. So we did take a lot of screenings. We did have struggling years, difficult years, and you're just kind of trying to move it forward. Sometimes you know, there was a couple of screenings that felt a little sideways, so they become difficult moments, but we kept going. And I feel like finding the right collaborator became a huge part of it too. Finding people that felt, I mean, this is a bit of a meta thing, but I feel like finding the people that are like, we can do this, as opposed to the ones that are just there like, I don't know if this works, you know, like positiveness and, you know, energy. I realized that like finding those in the teams and maybe some collaborations needed to go by, you know, needed to kind of maybe for different seasons needed to change. So that really helped. And I found a lot more success. And once we started going and I had a little more stable support, Pete Doctor is a great support, Peter Son were both really great help. Once they, you know, Pete Doctor was so busy. So when he finally became more available, it was much easier to kind of make my way. And yeah, so it was like definitely hard times, right? And those are the ones where you kind of have to dust yourself off. You get knocked down, you dust yourself off, and you can just give it your best. Like I kept on saying, like, I gotta give it all I got, and if this fails, it fails. You know, then there won't be regrets. But there were definitely some dark days in the middle there. It's quite a journey. You know, there really is probably a moment where you start feeling some momentum from the doldrums or story trouble that where you start being able to tell, this and this is working, this, let's rewrite it. And like, because really that is the job, right? As a director, you have to trust your gut in what to keep and what to redo and change. And it got to the point, we found the ending halfway through the process, which was a really, really helpful North Star for me to say, no, this is the story I want to say. Because yeah, you know, Pixar, I mean, we're very lucky because you have all these smart people. And if you know what you want, you will get notes and you'll be able to say no, good notes, and you'll be able to say no to the not great notes or the notes that don't work for the story you want to tell. So I feel like once the ending came into place, it made me more confident. And I was able to say, no, I don't want to do this because that movie, I don't know. This movie, I know. I lived through this. This is the movie I want to make. Yeah.
Enrico, like one of the things that I was curious about with the film is that I think when Dice and I were at Pixar, a lot of things were different than I think, you know, in watching Luca, there were a lot of things that I got to say throughout watching the film. I was like, how did Enrico like go through the gauntlet of, you know, really, to your point, those really incredibly intelligent storytellers and people and brain trust and all of that, and managed to make a film that was, for instance, not to give anything away, but like when, you know, you have sort of set pieces of action that they don't sort of become bigger. Like they always, you were so focused on the character, and in that way, I mean it in the best way. It sort of feels like this smaller film, this more intimate film. Was that a fight? Like, did you have to sort of fight to make that? Or because I think the Pixar that Dice and I left, that would have been a huge battle.
Yeah.
I would imagine. But how was that? Like was that a big fight, or was that something that
not as big as you'd think, because the movie at the beginning we didn't have it that small, so I didn't start there. The movie was Stand By Me, but they're on a big quest, and the quest was kind of adventurous, and there was magical objects, and there was 3 boys and Julia, so it was 4 kids. So often so we felt like, oh boy, we need to take stuff out. So the movie, when we put it up pretty quickly, we realized like it needs to be smaller. And the focus on the relationship was not as, you'd be surprised that I think around screening 3 or 4, we were like, this wants to be smaller. And there was a good consensus on that. Now, what is hard is how do you make a smaller movie tick? So we had to look for a little engine, and we were struggling to find that engine to the story. The engine of the story was more or less what the kids would do together. And we tried a few different versions until we found the race and the fact that there would be, you know, that we found, so that was a bit hard. But like, for example, sorry, they're doing donuts outside my window. I don't know if you can hear them. That's a good donut. Wow. So that wasn't as much of a fight. It was more like, how do you make it work? And what are the things that can lead you through something that has a little less, strong momentum or stakes? I mean, we talked a lot about stakes, and like, it is a bit of a kid's stakes, right? I mean, there is danger for them, but it's obviously a slower pace when you're with them. But we talked a lot about the relationships and the jealousy creating and the character. So we were really focused on character, and then it was a little bit, how do you pull us through it? Because it was very clear that Luca needed to change into, thanks to Alberto, he would just blossom and then take off by himself and then create strife. Once that strife starts, jealousy starts, we always had pretty good juice, but to get there, it took a little bit of work. Sometimes it would be a bit of a fight on the protagonist. I'll say that, because the slightly quieter protagonist is so hard to do, right? That wasn't an easy thing, because that I was trying to make him as introvert and timid as possible, and that was hard. I don't know that he's absolutely, a wallflower, but that took a lot of fine tuning, because character appeal becomes definitely something you get a lot of notes. And we kept on saying, give me a little moment, I'll make him interesting enough. He's curious, but he's self-limiting. And once Alberto arrives, he'll activate. Give me a little patience, So there's fights like that. But like our finale, again, the history of it, we tried something big. There was a kraken at one point early on.
Wow.
And there was a kraken. Yeah.
Like a big sea monster.
Alberto magically turned into a kraken. And we all agreed that the movie didn't want that. The movie wanted something smaller. Then it was about, what was it? And the race was our solution ultimately.
That's amazing.
I really love to continue to talk a little bit more, but we're really over. Enrico, do you still have like 5 minutes or so? Because we got so many questions from our audience members, and I think it'd be great to pick a few. There's some really great questions.
Let's do it. Let's try and fit him in.
Well, super, probably a question that you've probably answered many times, but I think it'll be still great to hear is Luca based on your personal story?
Yeah, the timid kid was me when I was 12, and my Alberto is my best friend's name. And yeah, he was a bit of his family was around, but he was very free to do what he wanted. And so he had a passion every week, and he dragged me into a lot of fun stuff. And so, yeah, the question became, as the movie, it's like, why are these friendships so important? And even more like, would I be the same person if I had not met him? So that was a bit the inspiration for all of this, us growing up. And certainly journey of Luca, especially, I don't know if everybody's seen the movie, but it certainly, his dreams and chasing his dreams is something I had to do similarly to him.
Right, that's amazing. A lot of people felt the feeling of Ghibli movies, influence, or even any Japanese anime. Like obviously, I know you love anime, you love Miyazaki-san's films, but how much of that influenced the feel of Luca, story-wise or visual-wise?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's almost it's almost impossible for me to say, what isn't inspired by Miyazaki, because I've been observing him for so many years. I own all of his, I'm the kind of guy who picks up the pencil he uses, kind of thing. And I've made my comics in pencil and watercolor. I mean, his image boards and his work has been so, in the way I influenced the way I draw. So there's that. And the visual beauty of what Ghibli does that it become my taste, kind of. And then there's the stories he tells, which is the way that at a deeper level, I love that those kind of stories that have a certain wonder toward nature. And I love the stories that have the kid's point of view, right? There's something magical that he taps into in his movies for kids, especially, right? Like, I mean, he has a few different personas, I would argue, right, Miyazaki, but like in his Totoro phase, somehow you're in that world. You're absolutely in that world. And not that I don't love the more Mononoke phase that has darkness and more complex, but I think that those are the things that I love, and that I look for a character that it's like the fish out of water, or the kid who is experiencing for the first time what their parents do on the moon. It's the perfect character to enable me to put myself a little bit in that kind of feeling of wonder and curiosity, which he has so much in his movies.
Absolutely. Someone even mentioned that the Vespa, that's like a Porco Rosso playing. I don't know if there was any like inspiration.
Oh, the red, because it's red.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I hadn't thought about it. No, well, and he's flying on it now that you mention it. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I mean, some of these might be subconscious things that I didn't think about, because it wasn't immediately a red Vespa. We didn't know it would be red, because actually then the red Vespa becomes Hercules Vespa until we see it. But yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, we should have Luca flying on a Vespa with Porco as a drawing.
Yeah, totally.
The other thing I'll say is that, I when I started studying film, I was so interested in all sorts of I was just fascinated by all sorts of foreign films. So, I started with Kurosawa. And for me, when I was studying filmmaking, Fellini was new too, because I didn't grow up with Fellini. So when I looked at the amazing, when I was looking at Kurosawa and geeking out, I was then started looking at Fellini. And then I think that and then I was really into Hong Kong movies for a long time. And that is kind of went into anime and who are the exciting new anime, because I think there's definitely Masaki Yuasa, Osoda-san, like there are definitely a few directors that I usually keep tabs because I find their work interesting. I think probably Yuasa is lately the one that seems, I mean, he's doing TV series. I don't know if you've seen any of those, but he had made Mind Game, and it kind of blown my mind in the that felt like crazy and huge, kind of like as if they ran a marathon to make a movie. I remember
you definitely introduced me to Yuasa-san's world. For sure.
Yeah, he's always a bit of a crazy, a little bit of a crazy genius that sometimes I don't understand.
Yeah,
but because he's also so prolific.
Amazing. Yeah, he does like I just saw Eizo-ken a little while ago. Man, it's incredible.
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. So anyway, I like to, and you could say the same about Aardman or Cartoon Saloon, right? I mean, I think I think probably you're all like me, that is like, we just geek out about animation. And for example, Aardman was something we did look a little bit in this movie, because for me, it was a sense of craft, trying to bring a feeling of craft to CG was what we were after. And it always becomes a bit of a question: do you want to make it stop motiony? Not that we did, but we were trying to take a few cues in the animation of the mouth, for example.
I thought it was super well done too. Well, Enrico, we're way past, and I just want to be mindful. Thank you so much. I don't know if you want to add anything in the end. Robert, if you want to just add anything just to kind of wrap this up.
Oh, that's a good question. I had a thought that is not going to wrap it up. I'll give you one last nerd out anime.
Yeah.
You know the scene in Wolf Children? Have you seen Wolf Children where they're running down the hill joyfully? I had this conversation with the story team a few years back. I was like, how amazing is that scene? Joyful, beautiful. I just always loved it. There's a beautiful soundtrack behind it. Yeah, right. And I remember talking about it, and it says like, we never do those scenes at Pixar. We never do them because you go like, why do you need that scene?
Right.
Right. And so I remember talking about with Jon, who is one of our amazing story artists. He came back with a pitch for the swim scene that's in the movie. When they jump off the cliff and go to the water, there was this pitch, and I saw it, and I was like, and he pitched it with that music. And so he so agreed with me that like there could be a scene that was just joyful. And didn't even make a whole lot of sense because, to be completely honest, they probably shouldn't be jumping out of the water to be seen. But I was like, yes, this is the kind of thing that we should fight for because, and we did get plenty of notes. Why aren't you cutting to them arriving there? Like, do you need this? And I just wanted to mention that because it came to mind as inspired by that beautiful scene and how much usually we don't do them, or we don't, because there isn't a narrative need that they serve other than, I mean, what I love about it is it encapsulate the movie and all in one. If you look at the scene in itself, it is what Alberto helps Luca. Luca doesn't know how to do it, then he does it, then he excels at it, and he does. You know, I love its own little mini structure, but we had a little bit to fight for, or even to fight. We had an amazing editor. Catherine Apple was our editor, but she was, you know, she was like, well, do you need that shot? Do you need that? And I remember at the end of the process, the end of the movie, she told me that I am happy you didn't cut anything from that scene, you know. So it came around to kind of, you know, so anyway, I wanted to bring that up because that is an interesting example of the kind of things that, we maybe don't do as much over here. And that scene was so inspiring. I always love that scene.
Totally. That's amazing, Enrico. Really amazing. Thank you so much for staying so late, Enrico. We have a little bit of a gift for you. All the members who watched your film last week together, and everybody wrote this messages how much they loved Luca. So we will send you a big PDF for you.
Awesome. Wow. That's amazing. That's great. That is very sweet. Yeah, I will need a high res because I think it would be a little hard to read some of these.
Yeah, you have to kind of zoom in, but it's pretty
I can zoom in. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You can.
Oh, thank you. That's really great. That's really cool. Yeah, and that song.
I'm actually not sure who's playing, but it's a great, amazing stage.
You're giving us a good walkout song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun. I'm quite very happy with that song. Like I hope you guys like it.
Yeah, it's this beautiful classic Japanese song, and then you created the amazing kind of artist collaboration to make your version, you know.
Yeah, that was very strange. Yeah, what an experience. Because I totally went on a limb, didn't think it would work, but yeah, they were like into it. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, did you watch actually the dub, the Japanese?
No. I would
Oh,
love
okay.
to. And a lot of
Yeah,
people talked about it, but then a lot of people still wanted to watch the
I
English
see.
version. But I think a lot of people actually watched both, you know?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, because some of you probably don't speak English, right? Like
Right.
in
But you know, they
in,
have a subtitle in Japanese because you can choose English with the subtitle versus
I
Japanese
got you.
subtitle.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you probably the difference is that I heard great things about the kids. I haven't. I've only listened to the
Hmm.
trailer, but I've heard good things. But you probably lose a little bit of the Italianness. Is
Oh, right, because the
my
accent and everything. Yeah, I
I
can
don't.
imagine.
I'd be surprised if they could. I haven't really listened to it at all, but like Julia speaks a lot of Italian,
Yeah.
and like I don't know if actually
That's a
now
good
I might
question.
have to test it to just see how she
Yeah.
does. You know.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank you,
Enrico.
Enrico. Thank
Yeah.
you for the film.
Yeah.
The film is really beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Again, you guys give me a lot of perspective, and I appreciate that. It's always great to chat, and you know, you guys work so hard, and you inspire me.
Oh, thanks, Enrico.
Likewise. Thank you, Enrico. You
Likewise.
inspire us
Yeah.
for sure.
Cool. Well, it's great chatting. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Enrico.
Thank you,
皆さん、
Ciao.
ありがとうご
Bye,
ざいました。
everybody.
どうもありがとうございま
Sayonara.
した。
皆さん、
さよなら。
気をつけてね。
気をつけて。何やねん